this is Maria Horat, and today I have a very important topic to discuss in regards to climate change. That is because we have been told by our global leaders that we're experiencing an unprecedented climate emergency. And we're also told that funding to address natural disasters by climate change, global conflicts, and pandemics such as COVID is necessary in order to provide relief to those affected. We are also told that in order to achieve carbon neutrality, we must transition from a fossil fuel economy to the critical minerals fuel economy, also known as clean energy. However, how is this transition affecting our way of life? In this video, I will do my best to explain what this transition to carbon neutrality means to you. And if you live in the state of California, please listen up, because the state governor, Gavin Newsom, says that we are innovating when it comes to climate resiliency. California is without a doubt the testing grounds to new policies to achieve climate resiliency, to the point of restructuring the state governance. But before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more pertinent information in the economy and real estate. Okay, I would like to give you some information on this United Nations Central Emergency Response Fund, otherwise known as CERF, and the facts about this. And what is the Central Emergency Response Fund? So basically, they're telling us that CERF is a humanitarian fund established by the General Assembly in 2006 to enable more timely and reliable humanitarian assistance to people affected by natural disasters and armed conflicts. The fund is replenished annually through contributions from governments and the private sector. So it consists of a pool of reserve funding to support humanitarian action. They also said, how does it work? CERF allows the United Nations to react immediately when a disaster strikes. It makes funds available for life-saving activities to the United Nations and its funds, programs, and specialized agencies. He also talks about the different donors around the world and recipients. Donors is the light blue. United States is a donor. Canada, basically all the Western world, and the recipients. And the ones in dark blue are both donors and recipients. I find that interesting that certain countries, like my home country of Venezuela, is in light blue, so they're a donor. They have the highest inflation. They have a hyperinflation, the highest inflation in the world, and they're a donor. I will imagine they're also a recipient, but according to this graph, this map right here is shown, they're shown as donors. So anyway, so I want to just to show you what this means, a Central Emergency Response Fund, which you may or might not have heard. And before I jump to the next slide. Okay, and this announcement was made on September 28th, 2023 by the United States Agency, International Development. And it basically states that United States announces nearly $20 million for the United Nations Central Emergency Response Fund. It says that United States, through USAID, announced its largest contribution to date to the UN Central Emergency Response Fund, otherwise known as CERF. These 20 million contributions supports the delivery of life delivery assistance around the world and helps reach some of the most vulnerable and hard to reach populations. It also states that this year, the CERF is supporting the response to crises caused by conflict and extreme weather events in Sudan, the Horn of Africa, and other countries. Most recently, on September 12, the UN allocated $10 million in CERF funding to rapidly assist people impacted by recent floods in Libya. In addition to mobilizing aid in the wake of disasters, CERF also announces urgently needs support for countries facing underfunded emergencies such as the Republic of Congo, etc., etc. It states right here in this paragraph that the world is facing historic needs amid increasingly protracted conflicts and the escalating climate emergency, as well as the continuing ripple effects of the Russian war against Ukraine. As climate-induced disasters continue to drive increasing needs, USAID increased its contribution by nearly $5 million from its 2022 contribution to support scaling action to minimize and address the impacts of climate shocks through the CERF. I also want to quickly bring to your attention this white paper by the World Economic Forum from January 2023, and it's basically a blueprint on how the World Economic Forum, which is basically an organization with a public-private partnerships throughout the world, how they want to bring all the global leaders together in the fight for a more, quote, sustainable and inclusive growth and future and build climate resiliency. There are several aspects of it that are included here, and one of them is policy changes, major policy changes that are taking place as we speak, and the integrated resilience agenda, how that is getting infiltrated in every country, every county, every city of the world, and how we need to really be paying attention, because this is going to is affecting our way of life and our rights and our economy, and quite frankly, our environment. I now want to bring your attention to the meat of the potatoes of this video, and that is that the California state announced $65 million for inclusive regional economic planning. So as California continues to recover, and this was announced on May 26, 2022, as California continues to recover from the economic impacts of COVID-19 and rising inflation, state leaders today announced $65 million in grants through the Community Economic Resilience Fund, CERF. Okay, you might think that's a coincidence that it has the same acronym as the UN CERF. One is the Community Economic Resilience Fund, and the other one had a different name, but it was the same acronym. It was the Central Emergency Response Fund for the UN, and for California, it's the Community Economic Resilience Fund. Now, keep in mind, I have not seen this acronym used anywhere else in the United States, in any other state. They don't have anything else in the United States that I'm aware of called CERF. That has to do with climate resiliency and policy changes that affect the climate and all of that. So that's only my understanding, and please correct me, somebody, if they have different information, please let me know. I know there are different types of climate action plans all throughout the United States, but this particular structure hasn't been, I haven't seen it anywhere else other than California. So they announced $65 million in grant through the Community Economic Resilience Fund to support communities in planning for an equitable economic recovery. California Governor Gavin Newsom 2021-2022 budget included $600 million in general fund to serve to ensure that California's economic recovery create high quality, accessible jobs and helps build resilience to the effects of climate change and other global disruptions impacting the state's diverse regional economies. Part of this, you can take a look at it yourself, part of this also states that the Community Economic Resilience Fund is part of the state's overall approach to building resilient communities in a transition to zero carbon economy. With this year's proposed budget, including $450 million for the local government budget sustainability fund to help communities sustain revenues as they transition their economies. Just keep an eye for these words, transitioning and resiliency. They're very, very, very common, okay? As regions work to implement the Community Economic Resilience Fund, Governor Newsom has proposed funding to complement these efforts. So it's all about the funding. And for this funding, they need public-private partnerships, much like the World Economic Forum has formed throughout the world in order to bring this to fruition. So if we don't have these public-private partnerships, it would be very difficult to make this happen. His proposed budget investment include $200 million to plug idle and orphan oil and gas wells, $50 million for a pilot project aimed at training displaced oil and gas workers. His proposals also include $60 million in investments to support high road training partnerships in low carbon industry, and the list goes on and on. So we know what this grant money is basically. They're all taxpayers' money going towards all of these so-called innovating projects that they have to bring about the critical mineral-based energy, which I like to call, instead of the so-called clean energy that they are proposing, we will be transitioning to. Now, the High Road Transition Collaborative focuses on three aspects. I like to call them the 3 E's to remember them easily: environment, economy, and equity. But they call it climate, jobs, and economy. The problem is that each county is required by the state to participate in a new restructuring of governance. Yeah, you heard that right. We'll be basically, in my humble opinion, handling over our sovereignty in exchange for this high road transition to climate resiliency. And they are wanting to break the state up into 13 regions in exchange for eligibility of some grant or fund offered by the state. And each region's new governance will be based on a council with a 5-member committee. I wanted to show the actual membership, how it will look like. Basically, you will have an HRTC, the High Road Transition Collaborative Council, for each region. So we have 13 regions, it will be 1 for each. And each council is going to have 5 committees. They're going to have 1 committee in charge of equity, climate, labor, another committee in charge of business and workforce committee, and the other one for local government, which is basically your county supervisors and your city councils. Then you're going to have another one in charge of data, planning, drafting, and another one project committee. They are saying there's going to be 21 members in total, non-voting chair, 3 from each county. 5 are chairs by the committees representing the diversity of required stakeholders. They use the word stakeholders a lot. The problem with this new governance restructuring, is that we are not actually getting to vote on this. You and I, the voters, don't get to vote on this. This is something that is coming down from the state, which in turn is coming down from the UN and the World Economic Forum. And this state's new structure is going to take place. We are actually, I believe, in phase 2 of this process. And what is happening is that our local government representation governance is getting diluted. Our voice is getting less and less heard. So there's going to be a lot of individuals who are going to be in charge of making all the important decisions without our vote. And that's really troubling. The decision-making in committees and board are based on modified consensus model. I don't want to say a Soviet-style type of governance. I don't want to go that far, but I have to say that this reminds me of that, because public-private partnerships is a very big component of a fascist government. The Sierra Business Council Phase 1, which is the planning stage of the Economic Resilience Fund program, was presented to this particular county, Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors, on September 29, 2022, during a special meeting. So they basically established these partnerships. There is a partnership agreement that your county supervisors will have to sign to agree, but they're basically sort of required by the state to agree, and then they will be part of this block. For example, Tuolumne County, and I'm not making this up, is part of the Eastern Bloc region in California. So it's interesting, all these words that they use to describe various things, but the bottom line is that there is a restructuring of governance. You can see it right here, proposed High Road Transition Collaborative. That's HRTC, what that stands for. That's what CERF is all about. And is all about the governance structure. Okay, governance is the power to regulate a group, okay, a region, a state, a country, the world. Okay, and we know that regionalization is only the first step to globalization. So this new restructuring of governance here is going to affect you, in many ways. They are basing these kind of 3 aspects that are going to integrate into one. It's funny that they use a number 3 for that, equity, economy, and environment. And I'm going to go and explain and show you some other information that they have put out on this, which are, you're welcome to look it up. Please don't take my word for this. I think it's important that everyone is able to do their own research on this very, very crucial and piece of information that we really, really need to become familiar to what's taking place. Okay, I just want to quickly go over the 3 E's. The first one is equity. And they are telling us that, unfortunately, they're telling us that we still have a lot of barriers for prosperity when it comes to equality. They're telling us that there is segregation and discrimination and hiring bias and unemployment and all of these systematic barriers that are preventing people from being able to have an equal outcome on what they do. And the high road training partnerships are raising industry standards by building partnerships that connect those at the lower end of the labor market, such as low-income workers, gig workers, and the unemployed and underemployed, to qualify for jobs and supporting a workforce development infrastructure to reach economic success. So when they're asked what is economic equity, they say all workers have access to quality jobs, structural opportunities for upward mobility, wealth generating opportunities, and safe and healthy workplaces, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, religious beliefs, or ability and productivity gains will be widely distributed to workers. It seems like we have overcome a lot of these things they're trying to tell us that we have a problem with. I really, being a Hispanic naturalized citizen, I really don't believe that these are problems that we're facing that are making people achieve the so-called American dream when it comes to discrimination, segregation, and all of these. I mean, I think we have overcome a lot as a country, and humanity has overcome these inequalities or these issues, especially in the Western world. I don't believe that is the case, but they're telling us that that is one reason why they need to be involved. They're telling us, just like they told us with equity, that the low wage worker profile is 76% of them are workers of color, 40% are immigrants, 47% have some college experience. They're telling us that quality jobs provide family-sustaining wages, health benefits, pension, worker advancement opportunities, and collective worker input, and stable, predictable, safe, and free of discrimination. They're telling us that the minimum wage needs to be changed, and what that's going to do to the economy. We have seen massive layoffs take place, not only in the tech sector, but also in the banking and retail industries. We have seen thousands and thousands of jobs being lost. A lot of these companies are also in the carbon capture schemes markets, and they have to, in order for them to make money, they have to downsize. And that's why they're laying so many people off. Plus the capital cost now has increased because of the interest rates. And as far as the climate, they're telling us that California's climate agenda is aligned with a vision of shared prosperity, recognizing that we can achieve both carbon reduction and economic growth. Well, how can we achieve both when how can we get to an economy where we don't use fossil fuels and really optimize economic growth? Our GDP has been less than 1% for at least the last couple of years. The approach prioritizes firms that compete on the basis of quality services and products, investments in skills training, reduction of inequalities experienced by most vulnerable communities, and creation of quality jobs tied to local hire pipelines that address industry mitigation and adaptation strategies to transition to a carbon neutral economy. The goal is to create a sustainable and resilient environment community and a carbon neutral economy for all. And what is climate resilience? As we transition to carbon neutral economy, prioritizing job quality and promoting equity in access, training, and retention are imperative to procuring the critical skills the industry needs to address climate change. So that this is why a lot of these jobs are going to be basically green jobs and environmental sustainability. In the process of achieving so-called green jobs, there's a lot of jobs that are going to be and are already being lost. We must reduce greenhouse gas emissions, address the vulnerabilities of disadvantaged communities, and connect climate change reduction to high road workforce practices. So the high road, the high price to pay is going to be our sovereignty. We're going to give our just basically transition all the decision making from the power of the people to individuals with special interests and called stakeholders and committee members and public-private partnerships. That's going to be the restructure, the new structure of our state. And that model is, if successful for them, whatever they consider is successful, then will probably more than likely be integrated and put in place in the rest of the country. In order to further explain how this high road transition to climate resilience and decarbonization is going to play out, I want to also show you this information by the state of California that they put on their white paper entitled Regions Rise Together. This is part of CERF. They're saying that the limited quality job opportunities nearby, combined with high housing costs in coastal areas, results in many inland residents enduring grueling daily commutes to reach employment, including more than 85,000 who daily cross from the San Joaquin Valley into the Bay Area. This commute pattern is a strain on people's lives and families and is unsustainable. Yes, well, I will agree that having to drive that far to go to work is definitely, not the most comfortable thing, but people should have the freedom to do that if they choose so. At the same time, we recognize that many of our natural and working lands provide critical economic and environmental value. Here it comes. California's working landscapes produce exactly $333 billion in annual sales, comparable to the state's fifth biggest industry, finance and insurance. These lands also, here it is, the lands are also essential for our resilience and provide critical fire breaks during recent fires. Yet, tens of thousands of acres are being lost to development. So we know that the state does not want, or this climate agenda coming down from the UN and the World Economic Forum does not want people to develop lands. They don't want us in the so-called high environmentally critical areas. And as you see on one of my latest videos, the further you move away from the city, the higher your homeowner's insurance will be. So in other words, high insurance premiums are driving people away from the rural areas because they can no longer afford to stay in their homes because they can't pay for the premiums. Also wanted to show you this right here. As we grapple with a changing climate, we're continuing our ambitious policies to protect our air and public health, producing results while also creating both technologies and new markets. They're also, that's why we launched Regions Rise Together to support cross-sector civic partnerships. Now, public-private partnerships are increasingly important for this agenda to succeed. So the more businesses that are willing to partner with the state in order to bring this agenda and move it forward, the more successful they're going to be with their plan of basically making all the decisions for us, for a lack of a better word. Where regions are stronger with sustainable ways to travel and live, where economic opportunity resides in all corners of the state, and where inland California has a prominent seat at the table, supporting 21st century California dreams, where all Californians thrive. This is incredibly important. We have talked about in other videos about smart cities, and this is where it plays in. An essential part of this effort requires encouraging philanthropists and investors to believe in our dream and channel resources into inland communities They should. There are incredibly promising innovations and private investments happening inland today in precision agriculture, leveraging our tech savvy to produce sustainable climate resilience crops, dairy digesters to produce renewable energy, transportation innovation to make green our logistics and freight system, and forest management strategies to develop advanced wood products from felled trees. The theme of the last century was mobility. The theme of this century is interconnectivity. It is not enough to improve transportation, but with new highways and economic mobility, but also they want to respond to the dual dilemma of our climate and inequality crisis. So they're committed to build an electrified high-speed rail system that strengthens existing communities and revitalizes our town centers matters. That's why purposely locating businesses and homes in a concentrated pattern. You cannot live in the hills. You cannot go to the environmentally sensitive areas because you won't be able to afford your home. And pretty soon you're probably not even going to allow to be there. That's why purposely locating businesses, and this is what's driving the gap in between inland communities and coastal communities. It's not because there's discrimination or segregation. It is because the state is purposely locating businesses and homes. They're allowing development only in these areas, or high concentrated area where there's no more space essentially to do anything else. So the state has passed SB 9 and 10, which basically allows people to have accessory dwelling units and turn single-family residences into duplexes, because there's no more space to build in these concentrated areas. But even though they're telling you right now, on the last piece of paper, you saw that they're telling you that it's discrimination and segregation that's taking place, and that's why we don't have equity. They're also telling you that that's why purposely locating businesses and homes in concentrated patterns within communities and near transit can smartly solve our housing and climate crisis while protecting critical agricultural land and open space. You have to look at one of my previous videos that I had in regards to this topic, where they want to take us out of the regionally sensitive areas, like near the national forest, and they want to put us in the cities. There is nothing that will stop California's dream. So, yeah, they keep telling us that there is nothing that's going to stop that. They want you to believe that there's nothing that can stop this. This tyranny is the name. So, yes, there is. You need to become involved. You need to learn the ins and outs of this topic so that you can try to affect change and go to the board of supervisors meetings, go to your city council meetings, go to the state, go and talk to your congressman, and just let them know that this is not acceptable, that we have a U.S. Constitution, that we have natural rights given by our Creator, and we're not going to stand for this tyranny. They want to restructure everything in the name of climate change. They want to use the excuse that our climate is changing for the worse, that it's going to cause all these problems, but in reality, they just want to keep us locked up. That's the bottom line. They don't want us to be able to mobilize freely. They don't want us in areas where living where we want to live. They want us in concentrated areas where they can easily control every aspect of our lives. I want to also mention that the grants available as far as forest management goes involves something called biomass utilization, which is in order to thin the forest and prevent fires. They have these biomass facilities. One area of concern in this particular topic, they have many grants available for different things that the state wants for transition to transition into green jobs. But this particular area really is really interesting and something really worth your time looking into, because the concern is that much of the trees that are cut down might not be necessarily death trees. There have been new public partnerships forming, and companies like Kodama Systems based in Sonora, which is funded by Bill Gates Energy Ventures, and they bury trees, and I'm showing the article here that they have on their website, for carbon removal. And I think this is concerning given the fact that carbon capture schemes have now become a whole new profitable market. So Bill Gates is also having, has been heavily investing in forest management and says that one of the latest planting trees is complete nonsense. What he's saying is complete nonsense, but yet he's the guy, he's one of the private investors into these public-private partnerships that are happening all throughout our state for forest management. So as far as our environment, the question is, how can we really attain carbon neutrality with the current technologies available at the moment? How can we really be successful in attaining carbon neutrality when we have technologies that are supported by critical mineral extraction without undermining our sovereignty based on current policy of governance restructuring, jeopardizing our economy by having massive job layoffs and loss of housing, because people are not going to be able to afford living in the rural areas because of the rising prices of homeowners insurance, among other things, and lose our ability to move freely. And that's really going to put a dent also in our environment, these new technologies that are coming into place. I want you to take a look at this article that I'm going to share here, and I don't want to take too much longer, but I just want to show you the transition to clean energy. Critical minerals bring new challenges to energy security. So these are some of the minerals that are being mined, extracted. Type of minerals used vary by technology. Lithium, nickel, cobalt, manganese, graphite are crucial to battery performance, longevity, and energy density. Rare earth elements are essential for permanent magnets that are vital for wind turbines and EV motors. Electricity networks need a huge amount of copper and aluminum, with copper being a cornerstone of all electricity-related technologies. The shift to a clean, so-called clean energy system is set to drive a huge increase in the requirements for these minerals, meaning that the energy sector is emerging as a major force in mineral markets until the mid-20s. That's going to be a whole new profitable market as well. Most minerals, the energy sector represented in 2010 a small part of the total demand. However, as energy transitions gather pace, so-called clean energy technologies are becoming the fastest growing segment of demand. So what does it have to do with our economy, and how that's going to affect our economy and our environment? I don't think it's going to have a positive impact in our environment, having all these batteries laying and the extraction of all these rare minerals all over the world, particularly in emerging countries. So changing fortunes, coal versus energy transition minerals. Clean energy transitions offer opportunities and challenges for companies that produce minerals. Coal is currently the largest source of revenue for mining companies by a wide margin. To make that change in just these few years, it's going to take a lot of layoffs and a lot of tyranny to make that happen. Today's revenue from coal production are 10 times larger than those from energy transition. That, of course, and we need to also think about the fact that a lot of these rare minerals come from countries that we are having issues with. Okay, let's think China, Russia. Okay, those are countries that we're having a lot of issues with. So we are in a position, not to mention, of course, that countries like China and other countries that are not part of the Western world are not committed to this climate change or these climate resiliency policies. They are still working, making oil deals and coal, and they're still working on that. But we are the ones innovating, so-called. They want to say that we are, the innovation center of the world when it comes to climate resiliency and climate change policies that just are meant to affect us all, to impact us negatively, to take our sovereignty, to take our rights, and to keep us in a box. So I hope you found this video helpful, please help share the word here and continue researching this topic, continue learning. And if you have any comments, please go ahead and comment in the comment section below. I'm also going to put my website here, link below, if anyone is interested in either buying or selling a home in California, or particularly the foothills, Sierra foothills, Tuolumne County, Calaveras County, anywhere in the Bay Area and the Valley. I'm more than happy to help.